Is Gabrielle Union bad with money? Now, you guys by now have heard this interview about her talking about going 50-50 with her husband. I've watched a little bit more of this whole interview to have some context, because context is so important, right? There was a lot of backlash that she was receiving. But let's listen to what she says here. Let's see what she says about this whole thing. Let's play the clip. Let me play the clip. All right.
I'm curious, at what point did you develop that first sense of security and that the work is coming and as long as I keep knocking it out, there's gonna be more, and there isn't this sort of sense of the rug is could still be pulled out?
I struggle with that still, just because I think I just have more responsibilities, for my money. So I get nervous, like, oh God, that movie didn't open, well, what does that mean? Am I gonna have enough to hold everybody up? And everyone's like, it's coming, like, calm down. And I'm trying to find peace in the journey, not using my anxiety and scarcity mindset to be my engine, which is hard. It's weird to say I'm head of household, because in this household, we split everything 50-50. But in the other households that each of us have to support, it puts there's always this like gorilla on your back that it is like, you better work, bitch. You better work. Bitch, you better work. You gonna sleep in? Somebody might not eat. Come on, you gotta work. And it's hard. It's hard to let that go. So I'm working on that.
So that was the viral clip that everybody was like pissed off at her about, talking about, she, the fact that she's worth, estimated, so who knows if this is actually true, but according to the internet, she's worth, $40 million. Her husband is worth $170 million. We know that he was, an NBA player, very famous, very popular one. In addition to that, the two of them have a brand. I think it's for like a kids line. I think it's like hair products and all these essential things for children, Black kids, and it's called Proudly or something. So she's making money. They're making money. They have money. But this idea that and she has a production company, I believe. So she's, she has cash flow. But as they say, too much is given, much is required. But for me, when she talks about these households that she's supporting, is she talking about her employees that work under her businesses, or is she talking about her extra family members? And that's the part that I am curious to get more insight on. Because I would say if she's talking about her employees, then I understand that perspective. Like, you have these two businesses. One is a production company. One is, Proudly. And yeah, you do have to work. But this idea, this notion that she's pushing, that if she can't sleep in because she has to work and she's worth this much, context is so important. As an entrepreneur starting a new company, her company is newish, as an entrepreneur, yeah, you do have to work to make sure that all your employees get their salaries on time, make sure the business is running. But I feel like at her stage and at her sort of income and at her fame, she could hire a CEO. She doesn't have to be the one laboring to make sure this company is successful, And that's what I would imagine. And I get it. Some people just want to be able to do that. Some people are, micromanagers. But then that's just your fault, right? That's a lack of accountability. But I just think at her stage in life, for her to not be able to sleep because she has all these mouths to feed, nothing happens to you that you don't allow. And so my question, I know a lot of people are focusing on her and her husband sharing, the bill and that, whatever, who knows? Maybe they do. that's their business. But I'm just like, is she bad with finances? So for you to be worth that much, for you to, have had a flourishing career, you're already in your 50s, and take on this new position that you're just not able to, maybe you need to hire a CEO to run that company so that you can be able to sleep. Because at your age and at your, reputation and your prestige and all the things that you've accomplished, I would say now is the time to just like relax a little bit and delegate more. So this idea that like she's working so hard that someone might not eat if she doesn't get up and work, I think that's a little problematic. And that's her on a personal note. I would say, like, businesses that thrive, they create systems and they, delegate. Delegation is a very important skill to have as an entrepreneur, and know when to step down. I'm guessing that she has this. There are some people that are like this, that I don't have this problem, but there are people like this that they always have to be working. If not, they feel invalid. And there are people that deal with anxiety and all sorts of mental health issues that, I can't relate to some of these things, but I get it. These are valid issues that people deal with. Anxiety is a big one that a lot of people deal with. And she said she has a therapist 2 times a week, 2 hours each session. Therapy is so important. I believe in it. Do what you need. But I just, at the same time, to me, it's kind of like, there's no reason at her stage that she should not be able to sleep in, even if she has employees. To me, it makes absolutely no sense. And to me, it just gives me this impression that there's something that you're not doing right. And that might just be the delegation part of it. So that's one interpretation of it. It might be her business. The other interpretation of it is, it could be that she has these family members that she has to pay for. And on that end of the spectrum, that's a little bit ridiculous to me. If she actually has family members that she has to fund, this is a woman that has a rich husband. He's worth 170 million according to the internet. She's worth 40 million. She's rich herself. She has one child. Yes, her husband has other children, but those are his expenses that he should take care of, right? She has one child. You have one dependent. I think at most any person should take care of their parents. Retire your parents, right? So you have 3 people that are dependent on you. I do not believe that you should be responsible for anybody else to the effect that you can't sleep in. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel as though other people can rely on government assistance, or go and work. Why is she the one laboring away for other people to be able to rest in? That makes no sense to me. And there are flaws in the capitalistic system that we live in, but we're living in a capitalistic world, so I'm going to talk from that perspective. I don't think that she should not be able to sleep in, being worth the amount of money that she's worth, with the type of husband that she has, and only having a daughter, one child. I know he has children. That's not her problem financially. I don't think it should be. I think it's a bad economic decision, if you ask me. That if she doesn't work her ass off, well, someone's not going to get to eat. Like, what? Makes absolutely no sense. And just because somebody is rich does not mean that they're financially literate. Those are 2 separate things. And to me, what she's explaining is just really bad. I don't know. I can't say that it's bad financial literacy because, like, I don't know what it really is. But to me, what she's displayed, what she's expressed in that interview just tells me that get your house in order, man. Like, there's absolutely no reason that you should be funding your other family members. It's bad business. It's bad financial literacy to be funding people that should be able to fund themselves outside of your parents and your daughter. And if you're worth $40 million, they should be able to, like, it doesn't take that much money to take care of them, right? You have a husband that's so rich, you should be able to sleep in. And that must be a personal decision that she has. just sort of like, she even said like she needs to relax, and she won't relax, but that's really on her. But it's not the idea that she can't sleep in. It's this thing that she's convinced herself that there's this pressure that she really doesn't have to participate in. Because there's, too much is like, it's funny because I think Shonda Rhimes said this, the more like or even Michelle Obama said this, like in every stage of your life, you might have one thing, but you don't have another thing. You might have money and you might have time, but you don't have, I don't know, good health, right? And even Shonda Rhimes said something similar that you might be great in some areas of your life, but you're bad in other areas of your life. And for me, what it sounds like from watching a lot more of that interview, she might be good, like in terms of she has a lot of money, she has businesses that are thriving, she has a very successful career, she has a good partnership in her marriage. But it sounds like she battles a lot of insecurity, a lot of anxiety, a lot of sort of mental health, just to say like some issues mental with her insecurity, and that to me sounds like a hindrance. But and I like the idea that she's showing the public that, because who think that these celebrities, they have it all figured out. She's kind of showing us that they're imperfect and they're flawed. She's showing that. But to me, and there's therapy in that, right? It's cathartic to hear that someone at her stage hasn't quite figured it out. But I don't know, like to me, as someone that has exposure to people at that level and even higher than that, and seeing a lot of them are humans and are flawed, I just feel like I would just expect not to be something that, because some people might look to that as something to aspire to. I just don't think that the way she's described her situation is aspirational. And I think that regardless, it's just bad business acumen or bad financial literacy. It's one or the other. And the bad financial literacy is if she has more dependents other than her daughter and her parents, to me, that's bad financial literacy. And more to that point is the fact that she has this husband who's worth so much money. And I understand some of the implications why a woman would want to play 50-50. She has, Gabrielle Union has, she's a go-getter. She's an alpha. And I can understand how if somebody's paying for everything in your household, well, that person might feel like they have more of the power in the relationship and they can have more control. And I totally get that. And so us saying, well, I'm going to go 50-50 with you, so you don't think that, and she's, first of all, it's a graduation for her because her last husband, she was paying for everything. So she's graduating to 50-50. And to her, that's a win, right? And I still get to dictate how this house is run because it's the two of us. We're in this together. And I completely understand that. And I think that's part of her insecurities also, thinking I don't want to maybe submit fully, right? And I totally understand that. That's her personal choice. To me, it's bad financial literacy. You have this opportunity with this man that's worth all this money. Yes, he's 10 years younger than you. He's worth all this money. You could take this opportunity to leverage. He's worth $170 million. You can stack your bread, put your money into better investments instead of paying towards the house. Put your money into investments that will support you in the long run. Because if you do divorce him now, which is likely, if you divorce him in the next 20 years, which is it's possible. Nobody would want to say that would happen, but it's possible. Is your money going to be stacked up in the way that not only can you sustain this lifestyle that you've built with him, but you can even go beyond that? Is your money going to be good like that? Because he's about 5 or so times richer than her, 4 or 5 times richer than her. So to me, there's absolutely no reason that she should be going 50-50 with him. Just from a financial, as a business person, the first thing that you're going to say is, I'm going to spend the least money that I can. Business is about spending the least amount of money that you possibly can to get the most amount of money that you possibly can. And you have this loophole, this opportunity to stack your paper, invest your money into other things, that will build your wealth. Instead of putting it into a house that you live in, because the house you live in is not an asset. Instead of putting it into the bills that you're paying, that's not an asset. But you're putting the money into your future, into real estate investments, all these different types of investments. to build wealth, passive income, right? And while he pays all the bills, which I think is like normal, because if he was married to someone else that's not a famous actress, that's exactly what he would be doing. And you don't never know someone's situation, because ultimately that might really be a thing for her. Like this idea that like, if he pays all the bills, he calls the shots, and I don't want to be somebody's whatever. Who knows? They know what the best thing in their dynamic, but I just think it's not making sense. The amount of money that he's worth versus the amount of money that she's worth, it's not making sense, especially when you think about all the things that women have to do, in the household. Just from the fact that she had a surrogate. I would say, a woman, even just giving your womb up to the marriage, that's difficult. But this woman had a surrogate, which meant that she had to go through IVF, which is very difficult to deal with. And she did it multiple times. I know a few people that have experienced that. Very, very difficult to go through IVF, trying to have a child. So she went through that. That's difficult. So you suffered just to have a kid with this man. And then I imagine as a woman, you are probably going to be the chief operating officer of that household. You're going to make sure that the maids are always cleaning the house, and you're going to make sure that the toilet paper is always in, everything is always set. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's his role, but so to me, it's not, there's an imbalance. As a woman, you're typically the COO of the household. As the man, some people would even say the CEO of the household. As the man, that is retired, like, it's not like he's working his ass off playing basketball right now. He's not. This is a retired man. And to me, if there is anything, it's part of her insecurities that she talks about on the show. She probably feels as though she needs to prove to him that she's more worthy than all these other women that are chasing him. And by doing so, I will split the bills with you. How many of these other women can do that? But does a man like that really care? I don't know. They say they don't. Who really knows? But ultimately, I think she's missing out on a huge business opportunity of saving her money, stacking her bread, and building wealth with her money, and living off of his money, who is worth 4+ times more than her. It makes no sense. And this is where I would say we're looking at that balance as a woman of, you're making money. You also, in a dynamic with a husband that's rich. What do? You don't pay the bills. You do not pay the bills, because it's now not it's not a balanced relationship. Because what is he really now bringing to the table? Because women do so much more than men in these relationships. This is why there's a rising rate of single women that don't want to get married, and single men too. But this is why they say by 2040 in America, 2030, 40% or no, up to 50% of women will be single and childless, because when a woman marries, her life expectancy drops. Single women live longer. But when a man marries, his life expectancy goes up. Single men live shorter lives. Married men live longer. So the man is disproportionately benefiting from a marriage. The least that he can do is to provide, because a woman's going to be doing so much more. She's the caregiver. She's the caretaker. Yes, these people are rich. They can afford maids and all that stuff, but someone still has to manage the staff in the house. And that's probably most likely going to fall on her, that responsibility. So to me, I am seeing it's one of two things: bad financial literacy or bad business acumen. And in that business acumen, I'm specifically talking about, well, if all these dependents you're talking about are your employees, well, then maybe you should hire a CEO to run these businesses so that you don't have to not feel that you can sleep in after how many decades being an A-list actor. How much money have you made over the years? You're almost reaching the age of retirement, but you can't sleep in. It's wild to me. I don't understand it. Especially knowing how, like, actors are probably the least, when they're not working, when they're in the off season, they're some of the least prolific people that you will ever meet, because you go ham when you're working and then you take a break. But those are my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts. Leave a comment down below. Do you believe that Gabrielle Union is a great... What do you think about this interview? What are your thoughts? Leave a comment down below. You're watching Brand Video Pro. I'm your host, Kenim O, and I'll see you next time. A peace.